Okay, got the carbs off of the 900. It really difficult. I think because of the angle and trying to grab them, it was very tough. But let's look inside and see what. So this one is probably going to be the worst. Let's take a look at it. And they appear to have never, I'm really trying to keep my videos on point these days. They really don't look like they've ever been opened. Usually you can tell by the screws if they're kind of dog-eared. Let's take a look. That's actually really clean. That's really, really clean. And that would be the one that would be most affected. So that's Pilot right there. Let's take a look and see if we can see through that one. And you know, it really didn't feel like the bike was running odd. This whole issue might be carbs. So this is the telltale. So I'm going to hold it up to the light. And it is, it's clear. It's clear. So I'll just do a mild cleaning on these, and then I'll look at the plugs and the ignition, test all the spark. But this issue might be spark related. There might be another one here let's pull another one open here real quick. Now see, that one didn't have the snap. Usually you can hear the snap. That's weird. Usually they make a snap sound, which is the the thread locker that they use from the factory. But I didn't hear that. And this one is very clean, also very clean. Let's take a look at the Pilot. I know I've said this before, but the Pilot jet is kind of the tell-all because it is the smallest orifice in the entire carburetor. So that one, that's why they are usually clogged. This one looks, you're talking about a tiny, teeny hole. That one looks sort of clear. Anyway, I'm gonna dunk all of these. I'll pull the tops off. Take a look at the floats. And what might be happening with this bike is I'd mentioned that the petcock was sticking, was flowing fuel. So this whole issue that the bike is having very well might be just that this cylinder and maybe the number 2 cylinder are just getting flooded. This might be a flooding issue. Regardless, I'm not going to really have much to do on the carbs. Let's see what we got here. Oh, look, the newer, look at that. They put a little pole. Needle looks good. Yeah, these are in really good shape. Just a mild cleaning. I don't think I have to dunk these. I mean, these are clean. So again, the issue, I'll probably pull all these and just spray jet carb cleaner through all this. But the issue might just be the flooding. Something else that might be going, I noticed, was that the choke, this is kind of funky the way this is moving, like it's not snapping back on its own. So that very well could be the issue too, that the choke's sticking on. Anyway, I'll keep plugging along, see if we can find a smoking gun here. All right. So I found what I think the culprit is. So the carbs are in good shape. I pulled the tops out of all of them. They're really clean. And what's amazing is, all the screws look like they've never been opened up before. And this bike is, 23 years old. So I did find the culprit though, and it's like I was thinking. So what was happening was the fuel valve under the tank is only supposed to draw fuel when the engine's running. Well, it wasn't. It was leaking. And what it did was it filled up carburetor number 1, And then what that did is that filled up the combustion chamber with fuel, and there's our culprit, fouled out the plug. It's dry now, but it was wet when I took it out of the bike. So that's all this was. It's good I got the carbs apart, I can clean them. It's not too big of a job, but really didn't need it. But if I didn't do it, then I'd be wondering about them, so kind of had to do it. But basically just redo put the carbs back together, throw some plugs in it, and it'll be good, should be good to go. All right. Hey, something I'm gonna do to this bike. So the previous owner put a pipe on it, and excuse me, they didn't look up they didn't bother to rejet the carb. So, and it's important because you think about it, an aftermarket exhaust is flowing more air. So more air is running through the carburetor, but the same amount of fuel is because you've got the stock jets in it. So I looked up what the stock size was, and sure enough, it was 115 on them. And I just happen to have some 120s. I probably could go 125s, but I don't know, and I don't feel like pulling these carbs off again. If it was a bike I was keeping, I probably would do that. But since this is just a flip, I'm just gonna go one step up on the mains, which should really help it out. It's got the stock airbox, so I'm not gonna mess with the pilot jets. And something else the manufacturers did was, I'm just checking these because I put them all in. I just wanna make absolutely sure I put 120s all the way across. But something else the manufacturers do is they put bigger mains on the insides, and I think that's because the inner cylinders get hotter, so they use more fuel, they add more fuel to those cylinders, kind of richen them up a little bit. But I'm just going 120 all the way across, only because, excuse me, only because the next step up would be like 122s, and I don't have any 122s. Next step up I have, for 4 of them, I've got 125s, and I just don't want to risk having to pull these off again and drop them down. So we'll do that. Keep the pilots where they're at, and should be good to go. All right. Got this one done today. Only thing I'm waiting on is the fuel valve for the tank. But fixed everything else, cleaned it up really good, basically detailed everything. I had the fairings off, so I even detailed inside the fairings. I repainted the pipe in there. Got it running great. As I mentioned in my last video, all it was a leaky fuel valve that was flooding out the #1 cylinder and causing it to misfire on #1. So it runs great now. So should have it back together tomorrow. Waiting for a couple of little minor pieces. You know how good this came out. Actually grabbed some spray closest I could to that color. That was scuffed up a little bit. But waiting for touch-up paint. As soon as I get the fuel valve on it, I'll put the tank back on it and I'll buff out the paint. It's a little bit faded. And I might try and find the original factory decals, because this, you can kind of see the ghosting where I believe it said 900RR back here. Not a fan. I mean, these bikes they're known as Fireblades, but that wasn't factory, having it like that. And somebody's going to be looking at this bike is going to want one factory, and the decals are cheap. So I'll probably do that. Other than that, I put new plugs in it, change the oil, change the coolant, and that's it. It runs like a champ. Here, let's see if we can start it up. Sounds great with this Yosh pipe too. It's cold, but it runs fantastic. So anyway, that's that. Okay.